The monsters know what they're doing. Combat tactics for dungeon masters, and more. The monsters know what they're doing. I hesitated whether I'd even hesitated doing these books, and I went back and forth, like, am I even going to do these books and other books that are similar to these that I have on my shelves? Because they're really hobby kind of books. If you don't play this particular game, then you're going to have no interest in these particular books, so like, what's the point? And then I thought, I don't know. I talk about French books that I have on the shelves, and if you don't read or speak French, then you're not going to be interested in those. Or even books where you learn French and learn Latin, and what's the point if you're not interested in those? And I thought, okay, I don't care. This is for me anyway, right? It's my books on my shelf. Okay, with that ridiculous and unnecessary preamble, here's what these things are, okay? These are books that are for people who play Dungeons and Dragons. Chuck those aside. Kind of pretty on the inside, paper binding. That's the gist of the spine here. And it's not just for people who play Dungeons and Dragons, but it's for people who are running a game of Dungeons and Dragons, who are the game master or the dungeon master. And the idea is that when you're running a game of Dungeons and Dragons, you have certain monsters that, your characters come up against. Here's a picture of a dragon, for instance. Okay, so your characters might come up against a dragon, or your characters, the player characters might come up against some kind of, I don't know, it looks like a giant squid, it looks like a giant octopus or a squid, or a kraken or something like that. I don't really know. Anyway, it's got these cute illustrations throughout. The idea is that this guy has thought very much about how to play those monsters, okay? So if, as the game master, you need to decide the actions of the creatures that they're coming up against. And so he's thought about all these tactics. Okay, well, look, if you're fighting against a dragon, dragons fly. So you should be having the dragon fly around a lot when you're fighting them, and this kind of dragon would act in this way. Well, what about when you're fighting a banshee, or when they're fighting an ogre or a cyclops or something like this? Excuse me. The point is, this is for the people who are taking over the actions of the monsters themselves that the player characters are going to fight. In this game, it's more fun if the monsters act the way that the monsters would really act, and think the way the monsters would think. And it's not just like, oh, you stand in front of this monster and you hit, and then it's over. And this completely different monster, you fight the exact same way. Hit, and then it's over. Instead, if you're fighting this kind of monster, it acts this way, and it fights this way, and it thinks about these things, and it thinks tactically in this way. And so these books help you figure out how to work tactically with the monsters that you've chosen. Now, if you have no interest in Dungeons and Dragons, the game, and if you have no interest in being a dungeon master that is running the game, and you only play the game, then really these books aren't going to be that interesting to you. He also has a website. I don't think I mentioned his name. Keith Ammann. He's got a website, he's got a blog with a lot of this stuff already in the blog. So that's another thing. You can just go to his blog. The monsters know what they're doing, and you don't even need the books. But I wanted to support him because I was using his blog a lot in my games, and I thought, oh, well, let's buy his books. So that's what I've done. Okay, the monsters know what they're doing, and more monsters know what they're doing, and it's combat tactics for dungeon masters.